Good evening. I greatly appreciate our opening speaker's remarks because whenever I talk to a group of people about community, I never know how people feel about people who are more socioeconomically disadvantaged. And when you have a lot of rah-rah about the community, a lot of times we forget about the people who aren't as successful in the community and need our help. I also appreciate John. The Ann Arbor Police Department is a great partner for the Housing Commission, and thank you, Cheryl. You've been a great partner for us as well. I'm going to start out by talking about sustainability in housing, which could be a 4-hour-long conversation, but we'll start with what is affordable housing. It can be rental housing or it could be owner housing. It's not necessarily just a shelter. The general definition that we use in our area is if you're paying more than 30% of your income on your housing costs, of your gross income, then you are paying too much. And it's especially harder for people who are renters or people who are at the lowest income because you don't have as much disposable income after you take that 30% of your income. You still have to buy food, you have to take care of your kids, you have to deal with transportation. This includes it's not just your housing, it's your utilities, taxes, insurance, etc. Otherwise, you're considered cost burden. Quickly, this is a chart for our county. The real number is the blue number, 87.4. The red numbers are the ones in our community that is generally the high end of low-income housing programs. That's usually the high end, but the vast majority of people served in the housing community or in human services are at the very bottom end, at the extremely low, or people making like $10,000 or $15,000 a year. There's a whole continuum of housing, starting with having no housing. You could be next going into a shelter. Then you could be going into transitional housing where you have a lot of intensive services. And I kind of went down, if you go down the list and down to the bottom, all of these are considered affordable housing, but there are various levels of services that people might need or assistance they might need while they're living there, all the way down to you may be out in the market without any assistance, but you just happen to be in an affordable housing unit. This is just a little statistic on Ann Arbor. It is much more affordable now than I bet if I pulled this chart up 10 years ago. We are ranked last year 87th out of 209 metro areas in expensive housing, which is, right in the middle, at the high-end middle. But if you can see that in 2009 for home ownership, we were ranked 132nd. So we're getting less affordable on the owner side, which makes me happy as a homeowner, but makes me unhappy as somebody who's trying to provide affordable housing. On the other side, we're getting more affordable on the rental area, which is a good benefit for the people that we're trying to serve on the rental end. So in an ideal world, every household lives in a unit that they can afford. So if 30% of your gross income means you can only spend $200 on your rent, then wouldn't it be great if there was a unit for you at $200? But that is not the case. I won't go into detail on this because it's complicated, but you can see if you look all the way at the very end, people making $100,000, maybe 30% of their income means they should be spending, $2,000 a month on their rent, but they can live in a household that's $200 or $300. They can choose to live in those kind of units. But when they do choose to do that, that means somebody else who needs that unit can't afford to live there. So if you just look at your community at all the different rental prices, it doesn't mean that everybody can find a rental unit that they can afford. This is a quick chart on the increase in homelessness in the community between 2004 and 2010 in all kinds of areas. People with families, a big increase in homelessness, mental illness, unemployed, all kinds of areas. This is an example of at the Housing Commission, the incomes of the people who are currently on our waiting list. So you can see the vast majority, like I said, are in the very lowest incomes, although people who are up to 80% could actually move into our households. The thing I want to focus on is fair and equitable housing. This is a map of poverty. If I were to expand this map to the whole county, the vast majority of the county would actually be the yellow, which is the least amount of, quote, poverty. And the darker you get down to green is the areas that have the highest number of people by census that are considered in poverty, at the poverty level. And when I look at this map, I'm like, well, this is very strange because the downtown, if you look at Ann Arbor and you look at that purple area, what area is that? It's the U of M campus. And so when you have students that are saying what their income is, and their income is, you know, $1,000 a year or $500, it looks like we have a very high poverty rate in Ann Arbor. And so, which is actually a good benefit for HUD, because HUD actually gives Ann Arbor more money based on its high poverty level than it would have otherwise gotten. But it doesn't reflect what's really in the community and where the low-income households really live. And it's not just, when I think of housing, even though I'm the Ann Arbor Housing Commission, I came from community development background. And you can't just think about the city of Ann Arbor, you really have to look at the rest of the community. And so if you look at a different map, which is who's on public assistance, you can see this map is very different. It actually shows that a vast majority of people on public assistance are actually in Ypsi City, Ypsi Township, not as much in the city of Ann Arbor. And one thing about housing is we would like to focus on urbanized areas because of transportation costs. And when you look at both your housing and your transportation, the public transit is really in the urbanized areas. And there's a new movement toward looking at, is it just 30% of your income, but also the people tend to move farther and farther away, thinking they're going to get more and more affordable housing, and then you have to add on your transportation costs, and if you really add those together, it isn't always necessarily not only a cost savings, but a time savings. I believe this is my last slide. Oh, and I just wanted to, this is my last slide. It's to show that even though the need is increasing in the community, this is actual, HUD is the main funder on a national level for affordable housing, and its budget, when it started, was twice as much as it is today, and that's not even considering inflation. So it is not a good time on the federal level for support for affordable housing. Thank you.